right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back. So Jordan Peterson has torched Candace Owens, and she torched him right back in response. I don't understand what is going on. I don't understand why anybody would pick a fight with Candace Owens. Well, I mean, I know why they would, but at a certain point, I figure that people would start to understand she's not a good person to pick fights with, you know? Like, she is going to come back at you, and she's going to have a compelling argument. She's going to figure out a way to take things that you've said and things that you've done and then cook you with them. Now, I want to show you here what Jordan Peterson said about Candace, and he definitely is talking about Candace because the things that he's saying, I personally have seen him post on his X account. Also, Candace talks about it. Tim Pool notes it specifically. So let's look at what he says about her, and then we'll see what she says back about him, and then we'll discuss why this is all happening. Because at the end of the day, I love Jordan Peterson. I love Candace Owens. I love everybody involved in this story. I hate that all of a sudden you have this, like, you know, where it's like, obviously a lot of us have the same ideals, but the things that he says about Candace, I want to respond to specifically. So let's listen to that.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, well,
without a doubt.
That's a terrible thing because the psychopathic types, they're always the death of everything. Like, I'm seeing this come up on the right now. So imagine this. I've been working on a new theory of political psychopathology, and I like it quite a lot.
Is this where the term the woke right comes in?
Yeah, well, Lindsay is pointing at that, but he hasn't got the diagnosis exactly right. So it isn't woke. That's not the issue. It's not exactly.
I think
he's one
what
level.
they're talking about is like similar types of behavior.
He is talking about that. Yeah, no. What he's pointing.
Woke just lets you clarify in your head. Oh, it's like that.
Yeah, but the problem is
it's like Antifa.
Yeah, absolutely. But the problem is that argument is predicated on the claim that the ideas are the problem, like the woke ideas, for example, on the right or the left. But that's not the problem. The problem is that 4 to 5% of the population, something like that, is cluster B, that's the DSM-5 terms, histrionic, narcissistic, antisocial, psychopathic, or they have dark tetrad traits. They're Machiavellian.
Oh, I'm sorry, dark tetrad. I said triad. I was wrong.
Oh, by the way, I also love Tim Pool. My wife really loves Tim Pool. She loves Tim Pool. Like, she doesn't watch YouTube, but she listens to what I'm listening to. And every time he's on and she's kind of roaming around, she's like, I like that guy. Every single time. She's not even watching the screen, she's just listening to him. I like that guy. Every time.
That's about 4%. Okay, so the question is, how do these people maneuver? And the answer is they go to where the power is, and they adopt those ideas, and they put themselves even on the forefront of that. Right. But the ideas are completely irrelevant.
Right.
All they're doing is they're the Pharisees. They're the modern version of the Pharisees. They're the people who use God's name in vain, right?
Okay, let's pause real quick because...
Hang on. Okay, let me also say, it's not like, how does a person just like put themselves on the front of things? It's like, now, knowing that he is talking about Candace, because he is, okay? Like, there can't be any misunderstandings here. He is talking about Candace, and we're going to get into why that's happening later. But, okay, Candace's job is she's a thought leader. She's a person who shares her research and then her conclusions from that research to her audience. She's incredibly compelling. She's super charismatic. She's very well spoken. She's beautiful. She's funny. Okay. Like, that's why people watch her, and people want to hear researched opinions about things that are already at the forefront of a thing. That's her job. Okay. So the idea that she would fit into a category where she's like intentionally putting herself at the front of these topics is like, that is literally her job description, is talk about the things that are at the forefront of cultural conversation. So that being an indication of some kind of like toxic narcissism is a very bizarre one, as it relates to Candace, at least. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that his description of that personality type is incorrect. So if he was like, listen, if he came out and he's like, for the record, I was definitely not talking about Candace Owens, then I'm not arguing with his diagnosis of people doing that. Jake Lang would be a perfect example of that. Okay. You want a perfect example of what he's talking about? Jake Lang. Okay. The guy who did the Save White Lives protest in response to the Austin Metcalf situation. And the guy has the audacity to call Austin's father and tell him that that his weakness is going to cause more Austin Metcalfs when the guy's kid just got murdered. And what he's asking the guy to do is to turn a completely non-racial issue into an indictment of black culture and the constant attacks on white people by black people. It's like, okay, I'm not even getting into the merits of your argument because I'm just choosing to not dive down that rabbit hole. But that is a narcissistic, psychopathic thing to do. You get right at the forefront of the thing. Like, that is exactly what he's talking about. So this thing is real, but calling Candace that is absurd.
That's him basically saying Candace Owens, okay? So I've got the tweet from, let me see if I can pull it up here. Right, here you go. Jordan Peterson tweeted, Candace Owens is a true pharisaical pretender. She vociferously proclaims her devotion to Christ for no other reason than to evaluate a perceived status. Her outrage is designed not to shout the truth from the rooftops, build bridges or make peace, but to subvert Christianity itself with its new force to her own purposes. She is literally using God's name in vain. There are few more unforgivable sins.
I mean, that's a pretty tough thing to defend, man. In generally speaking, questioning another person's faith is, I mean, why? You know what I mean? Why? Even Andrew Tate, right? I know he's got a huge problem with Andrew Tate also, but like Andrew Tate says he's now a converted Muslim. Now, I would certainly consider Andrew Tate to be incredibly Machiavellian and narcissistic, obviously. But I still wouldn't question the guy's faith because it's not my place to do that. You don't know. I don't know. No one knows what's in a person's heart. You might think you know, but you don't. And I just think it's, the reason why I like Jordan Peterson is because he's such a passionate guy. And he's, he goes right at things. I've said before, I have previously in my life been completely impervious to therapy. I can't explain it. I've got to I've gone to therapists throughout my life for this, that, or the other. And, there have been years in between these times, and every single time what ends up happening is I just, not trick, but I just talk my way into a situation where I'm completely controlling the conversation. They don't challenge me at all because I don't allow them to. And I don't take it seriously because if I wanted to do that kind of exploration, really, I don't know. I don't know. I can't actually really explain why I do it. But I've always said Jordan Peterson, I would let him psychoanalyze me and I would be completely honest with him. I've never been honest with a therapist before. I would be honest with Jordan Peterson for sure. Honestly, I'm completely honest with you guys for the most part. But I don't know. Therapy situation is just bizarre to me, but I would let him psychoanalyze me. But let's continue.
Position and reverence that came with it.
Is they proclaim moral virtue.
Yes.
Doesn't matter whether it's right or left or Christian or Jewish or Islam. They invade the idea space and then they use those ideas as false weapons to advance their narcissistic advantage.
Yes.
And so then you have the problem, and the right's going to face this more and more particularly because the left had to face it when they were in powers.
Yes.
How do you identify the psychopathic parasites, 4% of the population, who are clothed in your clothing and waving your flags, but who are...
Did homie just go...
It's honestly, it's obvious. Okay? Piker Hassan. Okay? That guy. Okay? I don't believe he's dumb enough to believe the things that he says. I just don't. There's another one. A crazy huge example that I'm not going to say because I've fucking said enough about him. And then lower level people like Jacob Lang, whatever. All right. So anyway, bottom line is we all know why this is happening, right? We all know why they're doing this. But let's go over to let's just look and see what Candace Owens had to say in response to this, because she, again, I don't know why people pick fights with her, man. She is a ruthless savage.
And I think that many of the young men who no longer follow him have found never any accountability, always just something that only the experts can understand. And what I understand as a non-expert is addiction is an affliction that is a part of almost.
Oh, I'm sorry. And she's talking about how when Jordan Peterson struggled with his, I think it was Xanax, maybe, like anti-anxiety medication when he was quitting, it was very challenging for him. And then, I don't know, he was explaining why this had happened, having to do with, I think like something having to do with a death, like, or a health scare in the family. And her position is that he wasn't taking responsibility for his addiction because he was giving reasons why, the thing started in the first place. I was literally just talking to someone about this today. And obviously I've been very open about my history with that particular topic. I don't have any shame about it at all, because to me, it's like, dude, a person who is my age, who has never dealt with addiction, I just think they're weird. I'm like, never? Like, you never had a bout with pills, dude? You never were like taking too much Adderall? You never got hooked on opioids? If you don't like opioids, you never got hooked on Xanax? You never found yourself like, oh, oops, I've been drinking for, I don't know. I mean, like, booze is not my thing, but like where people start drinking every day, whatever. Never, like, why is your life so perfect? I just think that, that is I'm envious of them, I guess, the ones who are most of the time I'm like, okay, that just means you're either lying or you're weird. Who cares? If you got even a little bit of darkness to you, which is kind of a prerequisite for people to be in my inner circle, it's like, I would expect that someone's dealt with addiction. I don't, but also giving a reason for why you started using it is not, in my opinion, like, it doesn't necessarily mean you're not taking responsibility for it either.
Every single person's life that I know. I come from a family, and I grew up in a family with addicts.
Agreed.
That is going to, as a part of my growing up story, okay? These addicts don't have glossy degrees. They don't have extensive vocabularies. They don't have estates. So they'll forever just be known as addicts, not dependents, not from food, whatever it is. They're not flying to Russia. They are just addicts. And what I can say is that if you're wondering why, this is a moment, why there are so many non-experts that are registering to people as more truthful than those that are from the upper echelon of society. Take a look no further than Theo Von, okay? Theo Von, I'm just going to do the totally opposite description in the press.
She's going to say it's exactly like what I just said. Theo Von is just like, yeah, I used to do a lot of cocaine. It was a big problem for me, And, yeah, it's funny because when I met Theo Von, it was at Kid Rock's house in April of 2022. Yeah, April of 2022. And it just so happened that I had been, like, I'd gone out the night before, and then the next day woke up super early, and I always took Adderall when I played golf. Okay, like, I don't golf much anymore, but that's always just been a thing that I did because I've always had an Adderall prescription. I don't take it very much. What's hilarious is, like, you can rest assured, okay, any video where someone's like, take a little more Adderall, Jesse on fire, they're like 100%. That usually means that I've gone a really long period of like no booze, no nothing. The further I get from having used any substances, the more likely people are all, Jesus, this guy is spracked out. It's like, no, that's just my personality. Actually, that is just who I am, is a person who appears to be on drugs all the time. But yeah, I was whacked out of my gourd when I met him because, like, partied and then woke up super early, took Adderall all day, and then ended up at Kid Rock's house like hours later where, like, I would have just been laying in bed, but I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to get through this? Like, when I met Theo, I was like, but nonetheless, I digress.
Of him writing these like poetry, like literally it reads like poetry, but he's calling people names, ad hominem attacks, He writes, Candace Owens, a true pharisaical pretender. Again, this is a guy who has not asserted that Christ is anything in his life. He is not baptized, and he gets angry when people push him on what his religion is. She vociferously proclaims her devotion to Christ for no other reason than to elevate her perceived status. Her outrage is designed not to shout the truth from the rooftops, but to build bridges or make peace, but to subvert Christianity itself with its new force to her own purposes. She's literally using God's name in vain. There are few more unforgivable sins. Okay. Or I just said Christ is king because there was a renewed attack on the phrase, which was being sponsored by Dr. Peterson.
Okay. And for the record, though, okay, Candace is my favorite creator on this platform. I watch her all the time. I love watching her. I also love watching Jordan Peterson, as we've established. I don't have a dog I'm against in this fight, obviously. What I will say about Candace is this. I am very good at picking out people who are doing things. Wow, Jesse, that's a really specific call out. Oh, you're good at picking out people who are doing things. I'll give you a perfect example because Candace absolutely does this and I respect it immensely, but I'm going to take you to a different example. Okay. So the Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, Taylor Swift thing, all that, right? Taylor Swift just found out she's getting subpoenaed. I would expect that would have been the topic of conversation today on Candace's show had, Jordan Peterson not called her out in such a, on such a public forum with Joe Rogan in the exact, you know what I mean? Like, that's why she's talking about this. But in the Taylor Swift or the Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively thing, okay, Candace Owens has been calling out Taylor Swift for years. She's like, she is not a nice person and she is pretending to be. And Candace loves the idea of Taylor Swift getting exposed for exactly what she is, which is a mean girl, because Candace likes to bully bullies. Okay. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie American Sniper, but this is the best place where this particular phrase was kind of coined to the masses. There are wolves, sheep, and sheepdogs. Okay. Wolves are bullies, the worst kinds of people. Sheep are the sheep that just are walking around waiting to get bullied. And then there are sheepdogs who protect sheep and they see bullies and they're like, I want to bury this person. Okay. I am for sure one of those ones. Candace is for sure one of those ones. All the good people, all the good ones are sheepdogs, right? And then the shitbags are wolves and the sheep are irrelevant in terms of, public profiles usually, right? I mean, not always. But so Candace sees Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and Taylor Swift as bullies. And so her goal is to bury the bullies. And in order to do that, she has been taking this approach towards Justin Baldoni, which is like, he's this beautiful little flower. He's so kind. He's completely genuine in every single thing that he does. Get the fuck out of here, dude. If I got Candace Owens, her and I were in a room and we were not on camera, I'd be like, Candace, you and I both know Justin Baldoni is a completely disingenuous male feminist pussy that you have no respect for. You would have no respect for Justin Baldoni whatsoever if he was an isolated person that we were evaluating on his own. That's just an objective fact. No one's going to convince me otherwise of this, and she wouldn't argue against that either. But she is portraying him the way that she is as this genuine, beautiful soul because it bolsters her argument to bury the bullies that she's after, okay? So to act as if like she does not do the thing that I'm laying out is ridiculous. She for sure does. Is she doing the Christ is King thing to poke the Daily Wire guys? Probably, probably. If you know her personality, okay? That's the thing. That's the thing about this game right here that we do, right? Is this. I may not know you, person who is watching my YouTube channel right now, but you know me, okay? Like, bottom line, you know exactly who I am. That is what I do, I'm on here talking. You have heard me talk about topics more than people I've known for a very, very long time. A very long time. Where they'd be like, Jesse? They're like, oh yeah, I know Jesse, but if they don't watch my channel, they've heard me talk. You watch me consistently. You've heard me talk way more than that. You probably know me better than they do in some cases, And so when I say I know Candace, like I fucking know Candace, dude. Okay. And so Do I think that there's a high probability that when, that she really enjoys the crisis king thing because she knows that she's on solid ground to defend her saying it, and she knows it'll piss them off and they might even walk into a fucking trap? Yes, 1,000% I think she's doing that, or might be doing that. But their argument is on super shaky ground, super thin ice, They fired her at the Daily Wire, okay? Like, they waged war against her. Now, I will certainly acknowledge she waged war against them, right? Which is why all of this is happening. She took a position that was very critical of a certain country in the Middle East's response to a tremendous tragedy and attack in their country. And she took an adversarial role with them, and the organization she worked for was incredibly aligned with said country. They ultimately fired her. Okay. Now, I think she knew she was going to get fired. If you watch her last show on the Daily Wire, which I'm sure is almost impossible to find because I guarantee they took it down. I mean, you watch that, it's like someone must have talked to her because she is going as hard as she possibly can in the direction that because she had already started getting into it with Ben Shapiro. And again, I'm not ever going to take a side on that issue. Okay, that is their business. I try not to take a side if, a husband and wife that we're friends with are fighting with each other. Because I'm like, dude, there's no way that I could really understand what's going on. I certainly don't understand what's going on in Israel and Palestine. I mean, I just don't. But I like listening to smart people talk about, important and kind of relevant topics. And here is what I have to say about that entire thing, because this has to do with people, has nothing to do with the region, okay? What the Jordan Peterson side is trying to do here, or what their strategy is, this is not going to work, okay? I cannot stress this enough, and I'm not saying this adversarially. I'm actually trying to be helpful, okay? Because what you're doing is you are trying to go and attack the credibility of people who say things you don't like, right? Like, you're not making any kind of specific counter argument to anything that she said. If you just take the Christ is King thing, make a coherent argument for why that's a problematic statement, right? And then let people decide. That's the only thing you can do. So, trying to attribute malice to her without kind of backing that up is not a good approach. Going out and calling her a psychopathic narcissist because she's been critical of this or that, like they have been doing with everyone like Dave Smith or Jake Shields or whatever. Okay, this is exactly what you're trying to go after the audiences that listen to them. That's the only people that matter. Who cares about people who hate them? You want to convince people who are either on the fence or already listen to them, but they're on the fence. Okay, what do we all have in common that listen to them? Okay, we all lived through COVID. We all watched the federal government and Fauci and Bill Gates and the World Health Organization. Every time someone had a counter argument to something that they said, or a counter story to something they put out, they attacked their credibility. They never came out and would address the specifics of the argument that they were making. And the reason for that, in our opinion, which was then proven by the future, what is now historical record, was that the reason they weren't doing that is because they had no good arguments. They were caught, Yes, it was a lab leak. Yes, that's correct. Yes, it turns out that there were some legit studies about ivermectin that they buried, and then they kicked everyone off social media. And yes, it turns out, there were no human trials for the shots, in this variant or whatever. Every single thing that they came out and said that they attacked people for ended up being true. I'm not saying that's necessarily the case on this topic over here, but you're doing the exact same tactics that they did. And so what you're actually doing is you're killing your own credibility on that issue. You're making people think that there is fire under that smoke. You know what I mean? It's not a good approach. You just need to start arguing better, okay? Like Dave Smith and Douglas Murray go on the show. They don't talk about the specifics of the region. They're talking about Dave Smith's ability to talk about that when he's a comedian and has never been to Gaza. It's like, why are you going after him instead of going after, if he's such a non-expert, then why are you not disputing the things that he said and proving that he's wrong? Because if you can't do that, then maybe he is an expert. You know what I mean? I don't know. Anyway, that's probably enough for right now. I love you guys. Subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell. Bye-bye.